Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We're in the Gospel of John, chapter 21, verses 1 through 14. Jesus has appeared already 3 times, resurrected, to the disciples. But they're still coming to grips with what this means. And so they go off. Peter says, I got to go fishing. And along with him goes Thomas, Mr. I'll say whatever everyone else is thinking. Nathaniel, who's from Cana where the wedding was, right? And then there's his sons of Zebedee. That's James and John the beloved disciple. And then there's 2 other disciples who are part of the band of disciples, but they're not numbered amongst the 12. And why does Peter go fishing? You know, even though Jesus has been resurrected, and this is a good thing, even though they've gone past the trauma of the cross, life has gone awry. Nothing is ever going to be the same. Life for these guys will never be the same again. And they're trying to get back to normal when it's not going to be normal again. To have the risen Christ in your life changes everything. Now, they're out in the boat and there's a stranger out on the shore, but they don't recognize him. Why? Well, because the risen Christ, he is beyond this life and he is beyond death. And so his form isn't quite in the natural, this human state. And he calls out to them, why don't you throw your net on the other side of the boat? Which is just kind of silly. And yet they listen to this stranger and they do what he says. And then then a great catch of fish occurs. And immediately they're taken back to that first time. And what's interesting is that story is not in the Gospel of John, but John is making reference to that story that's in the Synoptics. And immediately Peter says, it is the Lord. That's who does this kind of crazy stuff with us, right? And so he puts on his coat and jumps into the water. Why would you put on your outer garment to go swimming? Maybe he didn't want to be in his underwear right before Jesus. And so the others, they pull in the net, they row the boat to shore. It's only, a few hundred feet off shore. And Jesus says, why don't you bring some of the fish you caught? And so they bring in the net, and there's not a whole bunch. There's not a school of flock. There are 153 fish. It is a very specific number. Why? Because numbers matter to Jesus. They matter to God. Why do numbers matter? Because each number is a person, right? That's why we take track of who's in worship, because each person matters. They matter to the Lord. And so as they're out there, none of them asked, who are you? They knew it was Jesus. And Jesus invites them to have a meal with them, to have, breakfast fish tacos together. But what they're really being invited into is fellowship and relationship with Jesus Christ. Even in the midst of all of life going awry and life never being the same, for having the risen Christ, what ultimately is the purpose of it is to be invited into this saving relationship with Jesus Christ. And from this, these guys are going to go from fishing for fish to fishing for people. That is our calling. Hey, thanks, friends. Thanks for listening to Daily Plunge. If you like it, please leave a review and pass this on to others. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day.